the Casual Killing Act of 1669. What many people fail to realize is that the whimsical killing of enslaved people during slavery and even after by white people without punitive consequences was based on laws passed by white politicians who themselves were plantation owners. This devious law, the Casual Killing Act of 1669, declared it legal to kill a slave while correcting them. Since malice could not be presumed, the Casual Killing Act of slaves implies that if a slave dies while resisting their master, it will not be assumed to have been an act of premeditated malice. Specifically, lawmakers in Virginia eliminated any penalty for those who accidentally killed a slave during punishment, as the black laborer was considered property. Other slave laws enacted in Virginia demonstrated a stark disregard for human life, highlighting how chattel slavery in the U.S. differed fundamentally from other forms of slavery practiced in continental Africa. By 1672, it became legal to wound or kill an enslaved person who resisted arrest. Legislators also decided that the owner of any slave killed while resisting arrest will be financially compensated for the loss of their enslaved laborer. Legislators also offered a reward to Indians who captured escaped slaves and returned them to a justice of peace. Earlier, in 1639, Virginia lawmakers specifically excluded black people from the requirements to possess arms, and crucially, in 1662, they enacted laws that imposed life servitude on black individuals. Lawmakers in Virginia decided that any child born to an enslaved woman would also be a slave. There were laws governing slavery that reinforced racial inequality and codified unequal treatment of black individuals and whites. In 1667, Virginia lawmakers declared that baptism did not grant freedom to enslaved people. This statute was enacted because during the 1640s and 1650s, some enslaved individuals had used their Christian statuses to argue for their freedom or the freedom of their children. Legislators encouraged slave owners to baptize their enslaved women, men, and children. In 1668, free black women, like enslaved women over the age of 16, were classified as tithable, subjecting them to taxation. In 1668, Virginia lawmakers restricted enslaved people from gatherings, including at funerals. It was also made legal for a white person to kill an escaped enslaved individual who resisted capture. Additionally, enslaved people were prohibited from arming themselves for any purpose, whether offensive or defensive. Violations of this law were punished with 20 slashes on the bare back. An enslaved person who left the plantation without written permission from their master, mistress, or overseer faced a punishment of 20 lashes on their bare back. Raising a hand against a white Christian resulted in a punishment of 30 lashes on the bare back. In 1691, any white person who married a black or mixed race individual was banished, and a systematic plan was implemented to capture enslaved individuals who had escaped. If an escaped enslaved person was killed while resisting capture, the owner was financially compensated for their loss. Partners in an interracial marriage were prohibited from remaining in the colony for more than 3 months after their wedding. Additionally, an English woman who gave birth to a mixed-race child faced a fine of 15 pounds sterling, which had to be paid within 1 month of the child's birth. If she was unable to pay the fine, she was required to serve 5 years of servitude. An interracial child born to a white indentured servant will serve a 30-year indenture. If an enslaved person was emancipated, their former master was required to transport them out of Virginia within 6 months. This law was enacted out of concern that emancipated individuals might attempt to free their family members who were still enslaved. In 1692, enslaved individuals were denied the right to a jury trial for capital offenses. Instead, A minimum of 4 justices of the peace were tasked with hearing evidence and deciding the accused's fate, a measure implemented to prevent jurors from siding with enslaved individuals. Legislators also prohibited enslaved people from owning horses, cattle, or hogs, fearing they might use horses to escape or livestock to generate income. In 1705, free men of color lost the right to hold public office. Both free and enslaved black individuals, as well as mixed race and indigenous people, were prohibited from testifying as witnesses in court. This ensured that even if a black, mixed race, or indigenous witness saw a non-resisting enslaved person being killed, they were legally unable to testify in court, leaving such acts unpunished. Additionally, all black, mixed race, and indigenous enslaved individuals were classified as real property. Enslaved men were also barred from serving in the military. If a white man or woman married a black partner, the white individual would be sentenced to 6 months in public jail and fined 10 pounds in Virginia currency. Ministers who performed interracial marriages faced a fine of 10,000 pounds of tobacco. Additionally, if an enslaved person was unwilling or unable to identify their owner, they would be jailed. This was implemented to ensure the owner could reclaim them dead or alive and receive compensation for their return.